Hello and welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. Kay Murray, Craig Burley and Stevie Nicol here in the studio. Lots to talk about. Transfer news, of course, one of the big topics, including Rodri and where he's going next. Barcelona, the destination, as we are seeing that he has chosen them over Real Madrid as it stands right now, and is set to be leaving Manchester City with Barcelona the place to be for the World Cup winner and the Ballon d'Or winner. Nadim in with us for the first time since he was with us for the World Cup. Frank Leboeuf is with us as well. No, did I miss the comma in between? Nadim, it's the first time that you've been here since you were with us for the World Cup. Lots has been going on at Manchester City. We wanted to get a bit of your gauge on what's going on there right now with this case with Rodri.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, and to be honest, I think it's been on the books that he's going to be going for a little while now. I think with him going into 1 year left on his contract, I think the fact that he's essentially done his time at City and been excellent, it wouldn't surprise me if he was to find that move. I think there was lots of talk about Real Madrid, but now that Barcelona's there, I think for me personally, I can see it. And obviously the two clubs are in very different situations. The two leagues themselves are very different in terms of the sort of understanding of it, the pressures of it and so on. But I think he's deserving of being able to get moved if he can do it. If he wants to go to Barcelona, I don't think there'll be many people at Man City that will begrudge him that, because he's come to City, he's helped them win the league, he's won the Champions League, he's won the Premier League Player of the Season, I believe, he's won a Ballon d'Or, he's won all these accolades and stuff with Spain. And so for him to go back to La Liga at a point where he's at the peak of his powers, more power to him. It will be disappointing because, you've seen how good he can be, especially at that last World Cup. But, this is a move that it seems inevitable given the fact he's 30 years old and 1 year left on his deal. But it's the way that football goes, I guess.
Yeah, they're all want out of City, Nadim, aren't they? All the best players now. Dominoes are falling.
Which are the ones you're talking about, Craig?
Well, I'm thinking about, depending how Maresca... Yeah, that could be... you might have to jump ship to the red half. Yeah. You know what I mean? Think so. Well,
No.
We do have Frank Leboeuf with us as well, by the way. That got lost in Nadim's Ballon d'Or win. But yes, let's talk a little bit about what's going on at Manchester City, because I see much more departures there in that list, Nadim, than arrivals.
You could definitely say that, but some of those players that you see in that list, looking the likes of John Stones, Bernardo Silva, Nathan Ake, they've been there for nearly a decade. They've been there for such a long time. And I think it's fair to say that from a recruitment standpoint, you want to see some sort of names being refreshed. And I think the legacy that they leave will be very, very tough to match. But the fact is the club is trying to build in that sort of direction. And I think we saw a year ago, Guardiola kept making the point that the squad's too big, and those players have left. And the squad still feels too big now. So I think in terms of what their future looks like, they're trying to bring it in and focus in on some sort of younger players. Obviously, you don't want all those guys to leave in the same window around the same sort of time. But they've had their impact. They've done great for Man City. And, it's time for other people to step up. And I'm sure if we, show a potential Man City lineup, it might not be as good as, say, some of the teams that would have existed with a John Stones and so on. But you look at it, and that could be City's team for the next 4, 5, 6 years, which is surely essentially what they would have wanted from a recruitment standpoint, and to be able to build for a future without Pep Guardiola. So in some ways I like it. The average age is coming down a lot, and they might not be, as I say, the final or the end product as such, but they have the potential to be really significant in the Premier League and maybe in Europe as well.
That's a fact. Haaland doesn't get itchy feet as well.
Yeah.
I think the big concern is
that's Manchester.
It's not a side that's really going to frighten you. It's not a squad that's going to frighten you now, and it's not a manager that's going to frighten you. Enzo Maresca. He's been at City before, obviously. He's been at Leicester, been at Chelsea. It's a big set of shoes to fall into, isn't it? It's a bit like going after Jurgen Klopp or going after Sir Alex Ferguson or Arsene Wenger back in the day. It's big shoes to fill, and it's a different Man City, isn't it? It's a Man City that was building back when Guardiola came in to really get to the summit, which they did. The big question now is how is this ship going to sail? Can they challenge Arsenal? Can Liverpool challenge Arsenal with a poor summer so far and a new manager? What are Chelsea going to do? And Arsenal look as if they've got the bit between their teeth in terms of bulking up that squad again. So at the moment, it's up to the rest to go out there and prove that they're going to be the challengers. And I'm not sure who it is.
When you look at that team, there's no aura around it whatsoever. You don't look at that team, and you take Haaland away, you're not looking at that team going, oof, I don't want anything to do with him, or I don't want anything to do with them. I mean, Maresca has got to build the aura again, because that aura has been blasted over the last, 18 months, couple of seasons. and as strong as it is, I think right now that's the only thing you can say is it's really strong. You're not looking at that going, oh, look at the combinations and look at this and how they're going to play together, and you're absolutely not. You're just going, that's a strong team, and I'd rather avoid them, but I think we could do all right against them.
There's a couple of players, there's 3 or 4 players on the bench, the notables there. We don't know what version of Phil Foden is going to be around. Could be a really exciting one. Might not be. That's how hot and cold it's been. And I do think, and I've talked to Nedum about this, certainly when we were watching him in the cup finals and the semi-finals. Omar Mamouche hasn't done it. Nico Gonzalez hasn't done it. They're still there. They're still there, and Guardiola, in the end, didn't fancy them. Whether Maresca will or not, it remains to be seen. But they always had a bench that frightened you, and now they don't. They don't have a first 11 that is good, is decent, but it doesn't frighten you.
What do you think of this 11, Frank? Do you feel the same as the boys do?
Not really. I think I found them a little bit harsh, I would say, at the least. And because when I see the names and I see the bench, I think you even have some depth, and you have only international players who have proven throughout their career that they can do something. And the only question mark that I have is how Enzo Maresca is going to make them play, and all together, is the chemistry will work or not? That's the only question mark that I have. But he has the tools for me to have a very good season. And yes, I agree with the guys in a way that Arsenal are favourites, and nobody can catch them right now, according to what we have seen last year and the year before. But Manchester City can trouble them. I'm pretty sure if Enzo Maresca finds something special and magical, which is in doubt, because according to, and I agree with Craig what he just said before, it's always hard after a big coach like Guardiola, Wenger, Klopp, or Sir Alex Ferguson to follow through. But really, I think City can finish second and fight maybe against Arsenal with the names that they have.
In recent years, when you take De Bruyne out the year before, and then you take Bernardo Silva out and take Rodri out and take John Stones, who hasn't played, as Nedum said, as much because of injury and age. But when you take Rodri and Bernardo Silva out, are they a better team or a poorer team? Even though you've signed Elliot Anderson, we're not comparing Elliot Anderson to Rodri. Rodri's the best in the world at the moment and has been, albeit he didn't have a sterling season at Man City last year coming back from injury. But if we take that little period out, prior to that, he was the best holding midfielder in the world, and he had a great World Cup. So, if he goes, they're a poorer side without him in it. They're a poorer side, arguably, without Bernardo Silva in it. That's just kind of where we are. And then you factor in Stevie mentioned the aura about arguably one of the greatest managers that's ever been in Guardiola, and how then Enzo Maresca's not that man. So it's not a disaster, but there's a lot to concern yourself if you're a City fan about what's the season going to look like.
Well, look at the middle of the park, for example. We know exactly what City have been all about for the last decade, 100%. You know exactly when ball gets in a certain position, where's it going to go? How are they going to get from there to there? All of a sudden, you've completely changed the whole midfield. If Rodri's gone, and he can't play anyway, so you've thrown Anderson in here. Now we're throwing O'Reilly in the middle, who we know has been going down the left. So we don't know what we're going to get from the middle. And we don't know how the back and the middle are going to combine. And we don't know how the middle and the front are going to combine, because it's a completely different midfield. It's going to be a new way of getting the ball, as I said, from back to middle and then middle to front. So there are so many questions over this City team. Absolutely, more questions than certainly answers.
Have you got any answers for these questions that the boys are bringing up here, Nedum?
No, I think these are really good questions that are being brought up, but it's because we have a new manager. You have at Man City, because you see, for example, like Guardiola had been there for basically 10 years, so you knew what to expect. You knew the ins and outs, the style of play, the concepts, everything, the players that he'd had for so long. But now things are changing. Nobody knows how Maresca is going to be working with these City players, what his style is going to be, how he's going to make them great again. But I think the point going into this season is that the question marks about a lot of teams, especially up near the top of the league, because you have Arsenal, who have the continuity, they have the Premier League title, they have players who are just at the right age to potentially go again. But then what are Chelsea going to be like this year? What are City going to be like? What are Spurs going to be like? You know, Aston Villa have a bit of continuity as well. Carrick hasn't been at United for that long either. You know, you look at Liverpool as well. You're not sure what the Premier League is going to look like. So you have a ton of teams who have like that ceiling. Like it could work, but would we be surprised in, say, 6 months' time it's not working? And that's something which we're not used to seeing from Man City, because under Pep, he was essentially first or second, year in, year out. But now you have those doubts. But they have the quality. And I think Stevie said something probably a couple of years ago which stuck in my mind. And he mentioned, I think it's a famous Liverpool manager, and he said it's always better to get rid of a player a year early than it is a year late. And maybe that's what City are doing with the players that they have now and building for what could be, you know, a successful era ahead for Maresca.
When you speak about building with Maresca, it's reported that his dream replacement, if Rodri is to go, is Enzo Fernandez coming in. And that looks as though that could be the name that we would be seeing come to City. Does that excite you, Nedum?
It doesn't excite me in terms of him being a direct replacement for Rodri, because the two playing styles are very, very different. But I think in terms of having an impact and doing well for Chelsea, you know, he has been one of their better players across the years that he's been there. There have been times when he's been captain as well, and he's had big moments for them. You know, you're looking at a player who has won a World Cup, who has played most of a World Cup final not too long ago, and he has a bit of spite, a bit of bite, a bit of edge to him. And I think if he comes along, Maresca will know exactly how he's going to play him. And I'm sure that he can do well for City. But again, when the talk is this is a replacement for, I couldn't disagree anymore. Because I think, as Craig said and the guys have said, the way that Rodri played was so unique and so special to that City side that if you think you're going to bring somebody in to do the same job or something similar, has to be a certain profile. And Enzo Fernandez isn't that. For as good as he is not that at all.
Phil Foden's not going to be happy. If Enzo Fernandez walks through the door, Phil Foden's just signed a new deal. If there's one player that's going to affect more than MD, surely it has to be Phil Foden. I wouldn't like to be Phil Foden right now, reading the papers, if that's what's going to happen. Because in my opinion, him or Cherky are the first ones that would move aside for him. So I don't see... If I'm Phil Foden, surely before I signed that contract, I needed some answers about what was expected of me, where I was going to play, how was I going to fit in with Maresca. And if I've sat down with Maresca and gone through all that, and then he turns around and signs Enzo Fernandez, I'm not happy, Bonnie, not at all.
What do you think of what Stevie's saying, Craig?
Well, I think at the end of the day, yeah, look, he'll know this better than anybody. Been at Liverpool in the heyday, although the squads were not as big, but there is always competition, and you always want competition for places. The big question is, the more new arrivals that come in, how will some of these players that have been below their normal standards recently, how will they react? So you could argue that, yeah, the more signings is a blow, but it's up to Phil Foden to show us that form of 2-3 years ago, whatever it was, when he was almost the first in the team sheet at one point. I remember the performance at Anfield. Do you remember it when he scored that? Unbelievable. I mean, he was unbelievable. It was like Phil Foden almost and 10 others. And somewhere down the line, I mean, there's a reason he wasn't in the England squad. There's a reason. There's a reason Cole Palmer wasn't in it. There's a reason Phil Foden wasn't in the squad. It wasn't just because Thomas Tuchel doesn't like him, it's because he didn't think he was going to offer him things that he needed. Now, you can argue about that and debate it then when England went out in the end. But it's up to Phil Foden, when he gets a chance, and he will, to go out there and prove that he can be the man again. He's got the talent to do it. He's got the ability to do it. And I don't know the reasons why it's, whether it's confidence, whether it's, application, attitude, lifestyle. I don't know what's changed. I can't answer that question. And maybe it is a new manager coming in. Same with Kerkez at Liverpool with his old manager coming in Areola. Maybe it is just something like that. But something with Foden hasn't quite been right this last at least 18 months.
What's the feeling on the Foden factor here then, Nedum, at Manchester City right now with everything that's gone on?
Yeah, so I had to sort of pick the team.
Sorry. I'll change names.
Go ahead, Nedum.
Go ahead, Nedum.
It's okay,
Go
fine.
ahead, Nedum. Go ahead.
Sorry, so
go ahead.
So I had to pick the 11 for City, and I was thinking I kind of want to put Foden in there, but I couldn't picture Shirky on the bench because right now, you feel there's a bit more like positive energy around the Shirky, like he has more confidence, has more belief in himself, and understands what his role is. He's got a bit of flair to him. But then for Phil, for some reason, in his last 18 months or so, it's like the confidence just hasn't been there. And it's strange to think that somebody so talented can still be essentially a confidence player, because we've seen him reach the very peaks. He's been Premier League Player of the Season, one of the best players in world football 2 seasons ago. And then all of a sudden, it seems like it's a shadow of his former self. So now when all of a sudden we're picking a side and I'm like, well, maybe Phil Foden won't start when he's this generational talent, really doesn't make sense at all. I'd like to think that Maresca will find a way to bring out the very best in him and to see that maybe he is a confidence player, because I'm sure Pep in some ways, has known him for so long that maybe he doesn't want to be offering those little things like, come on Phil, come on Phil, come on Phil. Well, a new manager needs someone like Phil Foden to do well, because it makes his job a whole lot easier. And yes, I think the guys are right. If someone like an Enzo Fernandez comes in and Foden is, in any way concerned about that and he's losing his spot, then yeah, why did he sign that deal? But I like to think the fact that he signed his deal suggests that there's going to be something positive coming from him this season. If not something great, then something far better than the last 2 seasons.
Where are you on Enzo Fernandez then, Frank? Because obviously that would cost a fair bit of money, wouldn't it? Don't Chelsea want to keep him?
Football-wise, I'm okay with him staying at Chelsea, and I think he served the club very well, and he's a great player. It's more personally-wise in the way he was behaving with the French players. Then after the also last season when he said that he wanted to leave, that's his behavior and his mentality that I don't like. So. He served the club well, he can leave, I won't regret him. I don't know if any fans will regret him. He did the job, nothing to say, but he can go. Really, he won't be missed.
Well,
100 million, you're not bothered.
I mean,
wow.
He certainly would be missed on the field, as they've sold Cucurella as well, and 1 or 2 others. We were talking about this during the World Cup. He's got Atletico Madrid, Fernandez this is. He's got Atletico Madrid written all over him. He's annoying, he's a good player, scores goals, can be a bit of a thug, makes bad decisions. He's got Simeone player written all over him, isn't he? Not sure he's got Man City written all over him, if I'm being honest. But it seems clear that he wants a different challenge from Chelsea. But it's always felt to me that he wants to go to Spain. So it'll be interesting to see where he ends up.
What was it that made you think you wanted to go to Spain? Was it all those, I love Madrid, lovely city, wouldn't mind it.
Well, to be fair, that was just a nonsense, because Cucurella was at it as well and he got his move. But it was Enzo Fernandez that took the fall with the suspension, which was just utterly stupid at the time. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a little concerning if you're Xabi Alonso, I have to say, because the season's not that far away. And you want to know who you've got, don't you, really? You want to know what you're working with. And he can ill afford another bad period as a manager, because he's rebuilding after the sort of debacle at Real Madrid. And what he doesn't want is getting towards the end of August and then 1 or 2 of his key players are going to go. That's the difficult position he's in. And Chelsea have to show that they're not a selling club. They're a club that wants to build and wants to... and it's been a weird summer for them, because they've spent all this time telling people they were signing these youngsters, and then they went the opposite way. So they really are sending out a lot of conflicting messages, which is slightly concerning if you're the new manager there.
Yeah, OK. City also said to be in talks, well, remaining in talks.
Is this Man City TV today?
It is today, I think. I'm even wearing the light blue for it. Ayoub Bouadi, the Moroccan midfielder, Frank, 18 years old from Lille. What more can you tell us about this player?
Sorry, I didn't hear the question. For who?
We're talking about Ayoub Bouadi, who we got to see in the World Cup.
Is he listening?
I'm a big fan. I mean, I'm a big fan. What he showed playing for France and for Morocco during the World Cup and before for the French national team, he showed his talent, and I think he deserved to go, and he proved maturity during that World Cup, playing for the first time for his mother country, let's say. He proved all his talent and his maturity. So I'm not scared of him going to a big club and proving his talent again. He will have to improve, that's for sure. But he has everything. I think the mind and the power to be one of the best midfielders. it's always hard, of course, to take the spot of the best midfielder in the world with Rodri. But he has the mentality of that, and I want to believe that it could be a good catch for City for many, many years.
Is it too big an ask, though, Frank, for an 18-year-old to have to fill that role?
I don't think so. I mean, you want to play football. You play for Morocco. You play in the World Cup. You play against the best players. You play with very good players. You want to go for it, and we can see that. We see those players, and especially nowadays, being 17, Lamine Yamal, Mbappe before him, and some others, not fearing anything and going for it. And I feel Boadi is so confident about his possibilities and his skills that I'm not scared about that. I think he's ready for that. He's ready to go for it, and he proved that already with the national team, being one of the main players during that World Cup. So he's going to go there and do the job.
We look less at age now and more about. You look at. I mean, Yamal is something different, isn't he? But then you look at the same team and you look at Pau Cubarsí. He's been in the team since 16, 17, the Barcelona team. He's won 2 titles. He's had several different partners, and he got another partner at the World Cup in Aymeric Laporte. And he's, as a teenager, won the World Cup.
And best young player in the World Cup.
So
don't you think it's different, though, for those 2 Barcelona guys in particular, because they're from Barcelona, they were brought up there, they've come into the side.
Part of their DNA.
Yeah, I mean, they're still doing it with Spain.
I know they are,
but
I think the difference is he's going to sign for Man City, and they're supposed to challenge for the Premier League,
in the Premier
Champions League. But he's expected to go there and produce straight away. That's tough for an 18-year-old. I know there's a lot of young guys doing well, but for an 18-year-old to step into Man City, and you're stepping into Rodri's shoes as well, I think that's an awful lot to ask.
Yeah, particularly in the middle of the park.
Yeah, big time.
And I'm not saying it's easier, but you're at the back. It's not. There's different facets to it, but you can see the game.
Yeah, you can read it.
For most of it, you can see it in front of you when you're in the middle of the park, particularly in the top leagues, be it Spain or England or wherever. It can be very fast in there, and physical and fast, and that's the kind of difference when you're out in that wide position. You're showcasing your tricks and you're doing stuff. When you're at centre half, you're trying to read the game. You're working with your partner. When you're in the middle of the park, you're right in the mix.
Less time, less space, less.
You're in the trenches in there, and everything's moving so much faster than you've ever seen before. So there's a lot, and I think Maresca will understand that, and I think the supporters. City supporters would understand that for anybody coming in, even Elliot Anderson, what did he have? A couple of good seasons at Forest? There was nobody batting an eyelid, by the way, when he left Newcastle, even though they didn't really want to sell him, but it was a PSR issue. But nobody was going, this is the biggest disaster ever, how can we lose Elliot Anderson? He goes to Forest, he has a couple of good seasons, and all of a sudden, he's over 100 million. So, but even at that, the supporters wouldn't expect Elliot Anderson to be Rodri. They're expecting a very good player, but you're not going to expect Rodri because he's so smooth generally in what he does in the middle of that park. So,
Boadi, for you, Nadim, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think he's obviously a very, very good player now. And when you think about the fact he's only 18 years of age, you can see the sort of future that he would have ahead of him. I think coming to a Man City side and being in the Premier League and potentially aspiring to try and win the Premier League from such a young age, yes, there is pressure on his shoulders. But what I liked about him and some of these other players who we talk about, these young sort of mavericks, is that they almost love that pressure. They're ready for it. They don't hide from it. And I think in some ways that comes because, foundationally, they're all really good players. But they have that little thing that makes them better. They have that personality, the way that they are on the ball, the way that they read the game and so on. It's fundamentally different to everybody else. So you throw them in because you know they can handle, say, the technicalities of any game of football, and then you see them shine when they do things that other people can't do. So I think Boadi, as we saw in the World Cup, him playing for Morocco, who have expectation on their shoulders, he's a starter for them as a teenager, but he was excellent. And as a consequence, so many people have spoken about him based on what he was doing in France and what he's doing for Morocco as well. So I think if he was to come in, it'd be great to see him in there. You talk about those youngsters, whether it's Cubarsí, whether it's Lamine Yamal. We could talk about, say, for example, a Jude Bellingham going from Dortmund to Real Madrid. These guys have something special, but they have the fundamentals to where they can always compete from the get-go anyway, and they do not look their age, do not play their age. They're just fantastic footballers. I think Buadi is definitely one of those.
Do you know, could I just throw in, I would much prefer, if I was Buadi, if I was to put myself in his shoes, I would prefer to go into Man City of 2 years ago or 3 years ago, when you've got your Rodri around you, you've got Silva around you, you've got all these guys around you. When the team's at that level, it's easier to play your own game when you're joining a team that is in control, and you can learn off these guys, and you can smoothly go in and out, and then eventually you're on the right path. I just feel as though Buadi going in there now, we've just sat here for what, 15 minutes talking about all the question marks we have over Man City. You bringing a young kid into a team that's got a lot of question marks, that is not the environment for him to show his best or to learn.
Look what happened to Kusanov when he fought. Now, to be fair, he looks as if he's came through it. Yeah. And he was excellent at times. His pace, and he's still learning about reading the game, but he's obviously a good player, and his pace is incredible. But when he first went in, it was a car crash, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was just,
and they were having a shocker at the time as well, weren't
they? They were struggling. He got chucked in. He made that first game, I think it was Chelsea.
5 minutes.
Mistake, and his confidence. So you have to really gauge it with the youngsters, where they are, where the team is, where they are, and if they go in and they catch fire and the team's playing great, fine. But if you're having a bad time, then sometimes you've got to take them out.
Yeah, we hope you have enjoyed the latest instalment of Manchester City TV. We'll be back soon. Manchester City will be in action in the Community Shield on Sunday, August 16th, 10 a.m. Eastern, against Arsenal. Naden will be there for us. ESPN, ESPN Plus and Deportes, as well as the app, will have you covered. Now, after back-to-back 17th place finishes in the Premier League, it's been quite a spending spree for Spurs, as you can see here. They are among the top spenders globally and second behind only Chelsea in the summer transfer windows. Roberto De Zerbi has some big plans, it would seem, for Spurs. It's not going to be another 17th place finish, is it, Craig?
It wouldn't have been anyway, even with him as manager, I don't think. But this helps, obviously, and not just signing some quality players like Tonali, and who else is on the list? Signed Van Hecke from
Mateus Fernandes
from West Ham. Van Hecke he knows. Senesi was a good player at Bournemouth. Andy Robertson is the sort of question mark. As much as Andy Robertson has won and has done, there is no doubt whatsoever. Stevie said this last year at one point, that Kerkez was having to play midway through the season and he was struggling because when Robertson had come in, he looked way off it.
Yeah.
Now, the question is he got something left in the tank to go again for a year or two? I think that's a big question mark, particularly the way De Zerbi plays. So I think Robertson is, and that left-back area has been an issue, Udogie and one or two others. So, yeah, they've signed some really good players. They have an excellent manager. If I was a Spurs fan, I'd be excited. But I think Robertson is just a big question mark if he can get back to even close to what he was when he was in his pomp at Liverpool, which I don't think he can.
It's quite the spend, though, from Spurs this summer so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's just totally un-Spursy, isn't it? It's just not what you expect. But clearly when De Zerbi went in there and took the job, and he's the reason they stayed up. If they hadn't brought him in, they were a good chance they could have gone down. And so when he came in, he clearly must have had some great conversations about what the future holds when he keeps this team up. Because there's no way that he was taking this job unless he was promised that there was going to be big changes in terms of the playing staff in the upcoming season. And true to the word, they look as though that's what they want to do. They've spent the money. Now it's up to him. He's got to do his job now because the board have done theirs. They've given them the money, given them the players. So now it's up to him. And there's no reason why they won't. They've certainly been the top half of the table. Forget relegation, forget 17th, forget the bottom half.
Top 5?
They've got a chance to be in the top 6. They've got a chance.
If you're spending that kind of money.
Well, you have to. But at the same time, listen, we watched the team in Liverpool last year who spent a lot of money and we all thought, oh my goodness, but it didn't work. Too many players, it didn't work. So I guess we need to cool our jets. But right now, I would say top 6.
I mean, if you're whether this is true or not, but if you're like Postecoglou, you're sitting saying, well, this is what I wanted.
Yeah.
He said it in a podcast, whether it's true or not. He wanted Semenyo, he wanted these players, and Spurs were being Spurs, as Stevie said, but De Zerbi's gone in there. He's got a little bit of the Antonio Conte about him, and not in terms of the way they play, but in terms of he doesn't get what he wants, he spits the dummy out.
He's an angry man, eh?
He can be a very fiery character, and so once they got him in last year, and I agree with Stevie, they didn't get him in, they would probably have gone. Once they get him in, you got to back him, because if you don't back him, he'll probably walk. Signed a 5-year deal, but you don't walk it, he'd probably just chuck it. He's that kind of character, so he's a good manager, he's a fiery character. You got to back a manager when he goes in, because Spurs can't keep doing what Spurs are doing. You know, half-hearted signings, new manager, not going well, sack him. Half-hearted signings, new manager, sack him. You've got to be a bit more aggressive than that. If you want to get the best players, and 2, if you want to keep the better managers, which De Zerbi is.
High hopes for you, Nadim, this year for Spurs?
Yeah, I think so. I think the last 2 years in some ways have been an abomination. Obviously, apart from that Europa League win somehow. But I think with the money that they spent, which, as Stevie said, is very not like Spurs, will apply a bit of pressure on De Zerbi and so on. But, you know, you looked at the team that you had on the screen there, and it included one James Maddison, included one Mohamed Kudus, and you've also got the likes of Kulusevski potentially coming back soon as well. So all of a sudden they have more depth, they have more experience and more quality. And most importantly for, say, Spurs, and most importantly for maybe a team like Chelsea, they are not playing in Europe this season. So whereas some of the teams that they'll be up against to try and finish in that top 5 or 6 are going to be playing midweek constantly throughout the season, for them, for long spells, it's going to be 1 game a week. And as we saw with Man United last year, that allows you a sort of margin of error to where you don't need to be perfect, but there's a great chance you'll be healthy. And if you're healthy and, you know, you're not as tired as some of these other teams, come the end of the season, that could make a big difference. So, yeah, I'm backing Spurs to be successful this year.
How about you, Frank?
Yes, they need to. I think the past of that big club deserve better nowadays and in the present time. So they had to buy players. They had to change some stuff, and I think the coach is going to be good. The player is going to be better. I'm not very worried about Andy Robertson. Andy Robertson knew exactly what he did, what he could expect. I mean, you have Udogie, you have Spence, and you will have him maybe on the 3rd spot. So he will play maybe 15, 20 games, which is pretty good for where he stands right now and the level that he is at right now, because he's not the Robertson, of course, we have none, and being absolutely fantastic. So he's preparing his descent through to the retirement sometime. But he found a good club, and he can have some hopes to play a little bit. But coming back to Tottenham, I think it's a team, and I agree with Stevie, who can finish in the first 6. Depending how it works with the coach and the chemistry that they will have. It worked a little bit last season. Let's see how it works this season, and they will have to start good. Otherwise, question marks will come very quickly.
But why wouldn't you finish in the top 6? Let's think about it rationally. This Premier League last year outside the Arsenal, it just wasn't very good. Right? It just was not very good. So where's the difficulty for a team like Tottenham? Even though they were pretty bad last year, where's the difficulty with a good manager and a good side getting in the top 6? Who's going to be the big threat? What, Newcastle? Is Sunderland going to have another stellar season? It's unlikely. Who's the big, so I don't see, it's not like they've got a lot of hurdles to jump to get into that position.
Yeah, normally.
There's not that many. Are Brentford going to be as good under Keith Andrews? Because that was a fantastic first season, but that is difficult to keep up. So it's not as if they've got all these hurdles to jump. It's not like there's Arsenal and then there's the rest at the moment.
Is that?
But does that come with its own pressures? Because you've spent so much money and
I don't think so.
The competition isn't there.
I don't think so. I think if you're De Zerbi, you're sitting thinking exactly what Craig was talking about there. I mean, normally, under normal circumstances, a team that finished 17th the previous season, going into the next year, how many times have you ever spoken about Emery going from 17th to being in the top 6? I mean, we've never done it. But that kind of shows you where everybody is in the Premier League. And certainly the majority of the so-called big teams, that tells you where they are. So yeah, previously it would normally seem a little strange to go, oh, this team was 17th last year, but they're going to end up in the top 6. It just feels right, though. It doesn't feel as though it's wrong.
I think Forest did, maybe not, I don't know where they finished, it certainly wasn't in the top half, and then they got into the European spot the next year under Nuno. So my point is, there's not, you know, we're looking at Arsenal being the strongest, then we're looking at City, Liverpool, United, Chelsea, Newcastle are selling the light bulbs and the roof and the doors and the car and anything else in the garage. So you're looking at jumping provincial clubs. You're looking at jumping the likes of the Brentfords, the Brightons, the smaller teams with good managers that have probably overperformed, but they're not spending that kind of money. There's probably a few others. You know, Villa obviously got a very good manager, but they've sold some quality players. So the jump is not as big as you think. No. And let's be honest, they shouldn't have been 17th last year. They were 17th because they were weak. Not because they were terrible in terms of terrible players, because they were mentally weak. And then they hired Igor Tudor, who it was just, I won't even go there. Yeah. So they're way better than where they were anyway, regardless of signing these quality players. They need to be in the top 6. They need to be pushing, actually, I think, for the top 4, spending what they're spending and looking at some of the other teams, to be honest.
Transfer Talk is where you need to stay up to date with everything that's going on at Spurs, who's coming in and who will be leaving. That's where you can keep up to date with all the information. And where will Enzo Fernandez start this season? Go over to our website to stay up to date. Let's get to Mohamed Salah signing a 2-year deal at Trabzonspor, which is the 4th most popular club in the Turkish Super League. So this move has come as a surprise to a number of people who wondered where Mohamed Salah would land, but it is Trabzonspor. Stevie, were you surprised to see?
Absolutely, I was, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it just shows you, though. He really does. I think he made the right decision leaving Liverpool, because I think another season of what he gave us last year would kind of harm his legacy, I think. And so he was smart enough to figure that it's probably going to be the same next season, so I probably should just go. And the fact that he's going to where he's going tells you he just wants to play. Yes, obviously the money comes into it, but he wants to go somewhere where he thinks he's going to enjoy playing. And that is clear. That's why he's going to Trabzonspor.
Well, he's going to be adored there, isn't he?
Of course he is. No, he's not going there to try and win the Champions League. And he knows going there that winning the actual league is going to be tough. So he's going there for football reasons, which is fantastic. So, yeah, I mean, for him, it's clearly where he wants to be, and good luck to him. Not keen on the pants he's got on, but good luck to him.
Where and maybe there were, where were the other suitors? I mean, you mentioned...
MLS?
I'm talking in the real world here. You know, in competitive...
Saudi Arabia?
No, again, real world. Not football backwaters. not places that really nobody gives a stuff about.
So in terms of remaining competitive and keeping the wages off?
Where was an offer from Italy, which he's played before? Was there? Where was in it? Was there anything from Spain? Obviously not. Because you'd imagine, if one of the real elite clubs came along, he'd probably have backed himself. Stevie said he wants to play, but he would probably have backed himself, saying 2 fingers up to Liverpool, look where I've gone. You wanted rid of me, Slot didn't want to play me in the end. Look where I've ended up. But look where he's ended up. I mean, they're fanatical in Turkey, don't get me wrong, you're right, and they will adore him, probably. And they just love the football over there, the atmosphere's great, but it's kind of where he is and where he was last year, isn't it? The 4th best team in Turkey, or the 4th, is it 4th best?
Yeah, I mean, the first question is why. You do.
4th most popular.
The first question that comes in your head is why. But I think, in all honesty, because he wants to play football and he wants to be there. I mean, you saw the atmosphere there. I mean, where else do you get that? So yeah, I think sometimes we look too deep into stuff. I think he's clearly, obviously, money comes into it, but he clearly wants to play football somewhere he thinks he's going to enjoy it.
How do you see it, Frank?
Yeah, I agree with Stevie. I tried to find a reason why he would sign to a Turkish team instead of going to Saudi Arabia and earn maybe the double of the wage he's going to go to Trabzonspor, because he wants to play football. And I think it's only nice and fair, and I'm happy for him if he's happy. The Turkish Championship, the Super League, is crazy. The atmosphere is crazy. I remember playing against Galatasaray. You land in another planet. And if you want to have fans, it's where you have to land. I think Greece and Turkey, they're absolutely mad and crazy, and games are different there. The level, yes, it's not England, it's not Bundesliga, it's not Liga, it's not even the League One or the Serie A. But it's a good level, and I think for Mohamed Salah, it's only great to go there and to enjoy his maybe some last years of his football.
Naden?
No, I agree. And the fact is, he's 34 years of age, coming off his worst season in over a decade for Liverpool, and just in general, with his goal-scoring record, he's had issues with the manager. Things don't necessarily feel the same. So now all of a sudden he can go to a place where thousands of fans will turn up with flares to sort of greet their new king, their hero. And I think for him being that's reason for him to sort of find that enjoyment with the football again. If he would have gone, say, a couple of years ago, you'd be saying, well, clearly it's just for the money or something like that. But he's going to be paid incredibly well, probably better than he would be paid anywhere else on planet Earth, to be adored by fans and still be playing some level of competitive football, not as a favourite, but every time he goes to that stadium, he knows he is a king. He knows the game will be built around him. His team is built for him. And I think he's very deserving of that, given the service that he's put forward for Liverpool and other sides across the last 10, 15 years. So, more power to him, and I'm sure he'll do well for them, relatively speaking.
I'm not criticising that move, by the way. But I think it is, and fair play to Mo Salah, and Turkey is a great place to play football. There's no doubt about that. But it's for those Liverpool fans in particular, or maybe and maybe Mo Salah as well, who talked last year as if he was undroppable at Liverpool. It's kind of validation from Liverpool's end about where he was in his career. The fact that he hasn't walked out of Liverpool and gone to Milan or Spain or wherever it is, I think it's just a kind of validation of where his form was and his age, and actually Liverpool and Arne Slot were right that they had to make changes, because he was never going to be the Mo Salah that he was, and that's okay. But he talked last year as if he was, it was a disgrace that Liverpool were dropping me, the way they've treated me and all that sort of stuff, which wasn't the case. He just was not playing very well. It was as simple as that.
Yeah, so a change of scenery for Mohamed Salah, and there'll be a change of scenery for you guys here in the studio tomorrow as we'll switch out some, bring in some others, but make sure to be with us. ESPN FC available every single day.
Get rid of the dross, you mean?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Challenge, but I'll be honest with you, we see that challenge a lot. Players going in and the foot being left up. No, it's a bad. And obviously the consequence is a broken leg. We saw a worse challenge a year or so ago in Spain. Kylian Mbappe didn't even try and play the ball. Luckily, I think it was Elche, or no, it wasn't Elche. Can't remember who it was. One of the smaller teams. Anyway, so that's a bad challenge, but that's a challenge you see a lot, where a player goes in and the foot stays high and it catches another player. So that's not a challenge that is. You see that most weekends around Europe.
It's called doing somebody in the business.
Right.
And we all know when you've done it.
So
if you get caught doing it, then you deserve the punishment that you receive.
You probably don't. You may know the answer.
I might have a few.
You may know the answer. You may not. Why is this any different? Did you say this is Brazil?
This is Brazil, and I think it's a landmark ruling in that he's suspended until that player's ready to play again.
Why now?
Why now? Yeah, I don't know.
Is this the first broken leg in Brazilian football? Yeah. No. Why now?
But Frank Leboeuf did bring this to our attention, so I wonder what you think of it, Frank.
Well, because I've said that a lot, and I know people didn't agree, and I was a defender, and I will try to defend, the people, who have been injured. There was two ways to say it. If you are Victor Gabriel, you say that it wasn't malicious, that you tried to play the ball, that you're deeply sorry, and I want to believe on everything he says. Okay, no problem. But now I put myself into Victor Peck foot, where I have a broken leg. For somebody who came attacking me, tackle me at 15 to 20 miles an hour, very fast, and broke my leg. And now I can't play football for 6 months maybe. And maybe I will go back to my best, maybe, if God wills. So I always said, and I'm going to keep that until my last breath, if you break a leg and you're not allowed somebody to play is what he has chosen to play for his life, you should be banned as long as the guy doesn't come back. That's why I think it's only fair. I'm sorry for Victor Gabriel, very sorry, but you broke a leg. In football, I played 17 years, I never did that. It can be randomly, whatever it can be, but it's not the case.
So what happens? What happens when a player makes? I've seen a player break a leg and it wasn't even a foul. What happens there? I've seen a player get a broken leg and it wasn't a foul. It was suspending people.
In the World Cup.
What do you mean? What do you mean it wasn't a foul?
I've seen a broken ankle and a broken.
Can you?
In the World Cup, Frank, the boy from Qatar just made an ordinary challenge. I'm not even sure whether he actually made any contact, and the guy broke his leg.
The Canada player. Talking about the Canada game.
Yeah, and then of course, our good friend in charge of FIFA, they banned him for 5 games, but didn't do anything with Messi. But that was a challenge that wasn't even a foul. But the guy broke his leg.
That if is there,
and this player as well, Frank, is saying that.
Would you want to ban somebody?
He's saying that there was. Hold
on, one second. Has he brought this up? If a freaking bringing this nonsense up. What if a player makes a challenge and it's not a foul, and as a consequence of the challenge, both players are jumping in 50-50 ferociously, and one player unfortunately comes out worse than the other, with a broken ankle or a broken leg? Well, so what do you want to do? Do you want to suspend? Do you want to suspend the other player until the other fella's broken ankle is healed?
No, is a specific action. Of course, I won't do that. I won't because the guy didn't do it on purpose. But how can you say that specific action that he wasn't doing on purpose? He wanted to be bad. He wanted to be strong.
Well, this is a very what I'm going to say to you now is you're getting into something that would be a legal minefield, because we had this. There was this. You'll remember this. Dean Saunders and Paul Elliott.
Yep.
Dean Saunders and Paul Elliott, it was a challenge. You weren't there at Chelsea at the time. Chelsea it finished Paul Elliott's career. I'm not casting aspersions here. It finished Paul's career, it went to court, it was a legal minefield. The most difficult thing to prove in a lot of sports, but certainly in football, is intent. It's almost impossible. Not impossible, but almost impossible to prove intent. And so if we're talking about who did what and meant what, that's a very grey area and a very difficult legal place to go. And believe me, maybe not in Brazil, I don't know, but in most other places that kind of thing will be challenged. And lawyers will say, prove the intent. That's the problem.
Yeah, and that Victor Gabriel is saying there was no malice. He didn't do it maliciously.
You have to prove there was, and it's a legal minefield.
Whose side are you on, though, Nadim? Are you on Frank's side, or are you on Craig and Stevie's side?
Listen, I love Frank, but I'm not on his side for this one in particular. Not least of all, just because there have been lots of games which I've played in where I've seen worse tackles than that, with even worse intent. I've heard people say, I'm going to go and do this. I'm going to go and do this guy. But because essentially somebody's leg isn't broken, they might just get a telling off. They might just get a yellow card, might get the red, and everybody moves on. And I think for the case with this challenge here, if the guy didn't break his leg, the intent and the tackle is still the same. And I don't think the tackle itself means that the guy has to have a broken leg. For as bad as the tackle as it is, I think most people watching the show, listening, they have seen tackles similar or worse. And I think to go on to Craig's point about, say, the unfortunate nature of some of this, I think it was 2006, I was playing in a League Cup game for City against Doncaster, and I somehow found myself in the attack. Somebody played me in, and I took a historically bad touch. All of a sudden, it's me and the goalkeeper going through 1v1. but I got to the ball first. I tried to sort of chip it over him a little bit, and then we collided with each other after I had the shot. And I remember thinking, what a bad touch that was. I can't believe I've not scored. Then the referee came over and gave me a red card, and I was confused, like, what's this red card for? It's because the goalkeeper, Andy Warrington, who was playing for Doncaster at the time, he broke his leg, but I didn't even know that it wasn't even a challenge as such. He's basically collided with me. I got this red card. The next morning, the red card's been rescinded, but Andy Warrington still has a red card. You know, so, sorry, I still have a red card, he still has a broken leg. So you wonder to yourself, like, there are collisions that will happen within football, some which are meant, some which aren't. There are some people who are unlucky, some people who are lucky. And I think Andy in that moment, like, he's collided with me and ended up breaking his leg, but it wasn't because of a tackle. It was because of one of those footballing actions. And it's not to say that, you know, the tackle that was put in Brazil was like the best tackle we've ever seen. But if his leg wasn't broken, would he still be suspended for the same amount of time? I don't think so. So is it about the tackle or is it about the outcome? Because the outcome can really be a case of, essentially tossing a coin.
Oh, Frank, you're outnumbered today, mate.
I've heard them talk about this before. He's bored. He's threw this out to the producer.
An eye for an eye makes us all blind.
He's threw a bone to the producer, and the producer, like, he's
pre-season.
He's dived on it like.
No, because he really thought that was very useful to talk about it.
Well, I don't think so.
Pickford, do you remember? What? You know what? Maybe we'll see. You know, remember
Frank.
Pickford with Van Dijk?
Well, you're right.
When Van Dijk got injured. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. No, we appreciate his contribution.
No, I don't appreciate his contribution. We're talking about something that would never happen because of the legal minefield in Europe. So he's brought this up before.
But legally...
And he was shot down the last time. He was absolutely shot down in flames the last time. And he's coming back. He's coming back for more.
Brazil has set the precedent now, though.
How many times?
Maybe...
How many times in that show we talked about the same subject? Okay, are you kidding me or what?
To be fair, I'd rather talk about the broken leg than Man City for 35 minutes. And by the way, I loved how Nathan went, it was a historically bad touch. I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
I think the word you were looking for was normal.
Welcome into the latest edition of Extra Time. Frank's been bringing legal matters to the show today. Didn't go down too well. All right. We've got Frank, Naden, Craig and Stevie here in the studio. Let's get started with the first question. 2 years ago, Liverpool were the best team in England and strengthened, bringing in a bunch of super talented players. They were heavy favourites to repeat, but it didn't happen. This summer, Arsenal are seemingly doing the same. So why might it be different for them?
Well, number one, Arsenal are making what, one change? Am I right? One change? And Guimaraes?
Maybe.
That's a big reason. You know, when you strengthen, one or two, in my opinion, is how you do it. Not 5 or 6. And I think the proof's in the pudding. Liverpool signed 5 or 6. And it completely disjointed all facets of the team. They've signed one guy. That's way easier and a way better way to do it, in my opinion. And at the end of the day, it's not about the amount, it's about who you sign in the right position.
Okay.
Yep.
Naden, which Manchester team will finish higher in the table this season?
Which Manchester team will finish higher in the table this season?
I
I think, to be honest, just put me in for never. I will never say Manchester United, even if it's the most obvious thing in the world. So I'm going to go for Man City, obviously, because I want to root for something positive, something good for the world. So yeah, I'm going to say City will finish higher than Man United.
Okay. Craig, you've described playing wing-back for Scotland as the graveyard shift. What made it so hard and what other positions would you consider the same?
Well,
How long's to go?
well, you're playing wing-back. You got no winger in front of you. You got no full-back behind you. You are the de facto winger and full-back. And if you've got 3 very experienced centre-halves, as we had then, who got some nous about them, they don't tend to go out and cover the full-back area because they don't like to get exposed. Big Colin Calderwood, Colin Hendry, Tommy Boyd, let's just keep a narrow back 3, and you end up running up and down the whole flank, basically.
Aye. When the ball's up there, I want you up there.
When the ball's on the left-hand side, make sure when the cross comes in, you're at the back post. And when the other team have got it on the right-hand side, when the cross comes in, make sure you're at the back post to defend that header. That's why it's a graveyard shift.
Stevie's laughing, you're laughing too, Frank.
Oh no! It's just. I know Craig, and I know how hard he was on the field, and how physical he was on the field. But I never seen him going back and forth, to the side, being ready to do that for 90 minutes.
I wasn't doing that for my club. I wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
I never did it at Chelsea, and I didn't, and I certainly didn't do it at Celtic because I was playing central midfield and I was scoring goals. And that's the beef I kept going into Brownie, the manager, saying, "Are you mad? Are you nuts? Play Jackie McNamara there. Play something." I used to say to him, I begged him, literally begged him. I said, "Play somebody else there." No.
Nadim, it brings up endurance. Which teammate of yours had the most endurance, who could run and run?
Oh, gosh. To be playing as a wing-back, probably like a Gael Clichy, or to be fair, for a little spell, there was Savinho. It was towards the end of his career for Savinho, but he was great at that. But to make a point of somebody that wasn't, I think if you put someone like a Michael Richards at wing-back, you're getting 45 top quality minutes. Then it's one of those. It's definitely one of those. You get, Stevie, you get quite shrewd about it as you get older. So I wouldn't do all that running. You just, when you're a bit younger.
When you're younger, you just do it, right?
When you're the first 5 or 10 caps, you go in there.
As you're told.
First 5 or 10 caps, you go in, you do as you're told, keep your head down, run up and down as much as you can, put some crosses in, make sure you're defending, make sure you're available, all that sort of stuff. And then as you get a bit older, you get a bit wiser to, well, I'm not going to bother this time, I'm going to do. And then when they're shouting on from the sideline, you've got 20, 25 caps, maybe a bit more, then you can turn around and say, get lost. But when you're young, you're like, oh my God.
Yep. Trying to impress. Okay, start, bench and drop. Greatest defenders edition. Franz Beckenbauer, Paolo Maldini, and Franco Baresi, R.I.P.
I never saw Beckenbauer play.
I'll tell you.
I saw Baresi and I definitely saw Maldini. I don't know. This is Stevie's.
That's a tough one, man. This is like. I mean, I would kind of go Beckenbauer, Baresi, and Maldini. And that's how harsh does that sound on Maldini? But I don't think there's been a better centre back than Franz Beckenbauer. I really don't. And Franco Baresi did the work of 4 people. We were talking about it the other day. He not only did his job, but he also did the full-backs and the other centre-backs' job, because he was in charge of everything. And not only did he do their job, he also did the goalkeeper's job, because the goalie had nothing to do, because he made sure the ball never reached him, and he took care of everybody else in the defence. I mean, you're splitting hairs here, but I don't think there's been a better centre-back than Franz Beckenbauer. You talk about. If there was one thing he did that Baresi didn't do, Franz Beckenbauer could go up the other end of the field and put the ball in the back of the net. Baresi, I don't remember being able to do that. That's the only thing that separates the two of them. But I'm going Beckenbauer, Baresi, and Maldini struggling up at third place.
Did you ever hear the Chris Waddle story about Maldini?
No.
They played at Wembley, England and Italy, and Maldini was a bit younger, but not young, and he was the best, arguably, certainly the best defender in Italy. Chrissy was telling it on a podcast once, and he gave him such a roasting, Maldini. Waddle gave Maldini such a roasting that Vialli and Mancini and all the bigwigs, might even have been Baresi, they were all stood waiting at the tunnel at the end of the game, shaking their heads, saying, "We've never seen anybody. We've never seen anybody do that to Maldini before." Chrissy was a great player, obviously. He absolutely tore him to shreds. Just things like you wouldn't think of something like that, but it was.
I don't think I've ever played against anybody who could throw the shoulder and do you like Chris Waddle. And then he'd throw his leg, he'd throw his left leg over the ball as well. And you were like,
Well, just when I saw Maldini's name there, I was like, obviously he was brilliant, but they were actually waiting on him. they were all shaking their heads. I've never seen anybody do that to Maldini before. Maldini was like, it was like something he'd been in like some sort of crash. He just was like, oh, it's not supposed to happen to me.
Frank, do you agree with Stevie on it being Beckenbauer, Baresi and Maldini?
I do agree. Even if I don't put Paolo Maldini in contest with Beckenbauer and Baresi because they weren't playing at the same position. Maldini was a left back, the greatest for me of the left backs I ever played against. But I put Beckenbauer because Beckenbauer knew exactly what to do with or without the ball. He was a midfielder before and dropped after at the end of his career, the middle of his career maybe, and he changed the view of that job we had to have as a sweeper. And he was my role model for sure. Baresi was, without any contest, the biggest conductor of a defense. And I agree with Stevie, the guy was capable of doing everything for the old defenders, Maldini included, and some others coming up and down. And I played against him like 2 or 3 times. And I was like a fan watching him. I was on the other side of the field. I said, well, that guy, he's not even touching the ball, but he's the main man of that game. That's insane. But Beckenbauer, different class, different way of playing. He changed the job of a sweeper, scoring goals, and it was really somebody that you had to watch or watch videos after his career to know exactly what to do as a sweeper.
Okay, Nadim, next question. Which new manager will be under the most pressure this upcoming season? Maresca, Iraola, Alonso, Mourinho, Amorim, etc., etc. Another one that you may be able to think of.
It's a good question. I think I'm going to park the Premier League ones because I think some of those guys will be afforded time because I think they're kind of deserving of their post, relatively speaking, to the clubs that they're at. But I think the one with probably the potentially lowest stock at the moment without the history there is Amorim going to Milan, because that feels to me like the one that could be great or could be a disaster. I think he needs to take some learnings for his time at United, the way he was handling the press, the players, everything overall. Because I think the Italians themselves, at times, they're not necessarily more welcoming to different sorts of thought about how clubs should be run, how teams should play, and so on. So if it doesn't match up and provide an identity which they can get behind, they're very quick to show you that they don't like it. So I think Amorim going there with his stock potentially not as high as he would want it to be, he's probably going to be guy under the most pressure, because if they play the way United did when he was last in charge, I can't see him staying there for very long.
Craig, which manager will be under the most pressure, do you think, this season?
I do. I mean, I agree with all that, but I think Mourinho, just because it's Real Madrid. I think there'll be a lot of people at Milan looking at that, the signing of Amorim, and thinking, why? Particularly if they've followed, which I presume they don't in Italy really follow Man United. They're so busy following their own team. But I think, Mourinho getting this opportunity that, well, let's be honest, he doesn't really deserve it, does he? He was sailing off into the sunset. Everything. Benfica was okay. I think they had an invincible season in terms of not losing, but they drew a lot of games and they didn't win the league, and he got sacked in Turkey. And all of a sudden he pitches back up because Florentino Perez doesn't really know what he's doing. He's just hiring and firing, and they're signing players. So I would say Mourinho.
Frank, so many French centre-backs at Chelsea over the years. Which is your favourite?
Frank Leboeuf.
The first one, by the way, we took the risk, but I would have to go for my teammate Marcel Desailly at first. He was the rock and decided to come over and ended up being the captain of Chelsea for many years. N'Golo Kante, Claude Makelele, I mean, that's amazing.
Centre-backs.
Midfielders.
Centre-backs.
Oh, centre-backs. Now, really, right now, with all the French players that we saw coming as centre backs, I wasn't impressed with anybody. I had hopes, especially from Fofana when he signed, but I will keep Marcel Desailly. I will keep Marcel Desailly for sure in the first spot because the guy was just a monster.
Okay. Kay with Borough adding 2 more Americans in Afton and Berhalter, joining Aidan Morris and potentially giving them 3 American starters. What are you hearing from Borough fans about the additions and Borough's chances of finally getting promoted?
Go on, answer your own question.
Okay. It's Dan's fancy dress shot. There's a lot of excitement because if they can emulate what Aidan Morris has done for the club so far and show that character and work as hard as Aidan Morris has, then, well, we've seen the signs of it today because Berhalter
They talk down the barrel. Talk down the barrel.
Sebastian Berhalter had the assist today in the EFL Cup game and he got player of the game, I think, but he was definitely one of the standout players today. They've all got the link from Columbus Crew in the past. And so, yeah.
Oh, I wonder
if they can emulate what Aidan Morris has done so far and that chemistry can be...
How are they dealing with the culture?
What has Aidan Morris done, by the way?
Aidan Morris has been one of our best players since he came in. Yeah.
How are they dealing with the culture shock?
Yeah. Yeah.
What, going from Columbus to Middlesbrough? Oh, the Whitecaps as opposed to Vancouver. They'll love it. They'll love it. Aidan's obviously been able to tell them.
I wouldn't know.
Aidan, you know him.
Yeah, he should have been with the US men's national team in the World Cup in my humble
Save it for Football Americas.
I know, I might be getting invited on there now because now all the US men's national team can come and support Borough.
After US.
Ask me, Frank. Go ahead.
I have a question. When the American guy, you know, they come and is it hard for, because we have that in France with the accent, that the American people may not understand everything when Middlesbrough people coming from Middlesbrough speaks English?
Yeah, there's no chance.
Is that a difficulty for
Are you
them?
suggesting that even people from Middlesbrough struggle with English? Is that what you're...
What you saying, like, Frank?
No, we have a little accent.
What's that
Little
place?
accent.
Tall trees.
No, what's the rough place? I mean, it's all...
At Middlesbrough,
It's all... Take your pick.
I mean, take your
there's a load of them.
It's all relative.
You've
Oh, where the
been
women have a
anywhere.
fight. What's that?
Stockton.
Stockton on
That's
Tees.
next to Middlesbrough.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's part
That's all the same.
Stockton on Tees. Oh.
Anyway, I'm delighted to see it, and hopefully we'll get some more Borough fans.
So if
from
you
this
don't
side
get
of
if you
the
don't get
world.
promoted, you blame Americans. That what you're saying?
Yes,
Yeah,
we
fair
can.
enough.
I can go on Football Americas and have a rant. So yeah, feeling good about it, feeling excited as it
for
stands
you.
so far. All right, thank you so much for sending in your questions. We will be back tomorrow to do it all over again.
I had to ask for a swap from somebody.